Good morning. Hello, everyone. 8:02. Good morning. Good morning. Hello. Let's see if I've got. Here's my phone. Seeing who's trying to reach me. Just 1 second. I'm just going to wait for some of you to jump on here, and I'm going to take a picture of something I've been working on. I hold on a minute. I'll be right there. I'm just going to give this picture to someone. So, hi, good morning. So much going on. Okay, all done. So it's about 8:03, and we're going to see who jumps on here and what we're going to do here. We're going to be in Genesis. We're only going to be in a few verses today, but some cross references as well in chapter 47. Wow, how is everyone doing? Let us look at verses 27 to the end here today. It's Wednesday, and my jaw's better. I can move it. That's good. Not a lot of pain. Yay. How are you all doing? What's going on in your neck of the woods? I'm in red, white, and blue today with gold nails because I'm doing toddler music here in a few minutes after we do this class. And I just took a picture of the hats that I made for the kids. Hmm. They're supposed to look like marching band hats. We're gonna have a marching band here in my house today of toddlers. It's gonna be so cute. It's all because the 4th of July is this weekend. I hope you all are planning on celebrating. I realize now I need to turn the volume up. Uh, are you gonna watch fireworks on Saturday? Okay, well, we're gonna get started here. This is called Jacob's Last Request in the Passion Translation. And yesterday we were talking about everyone becoming a slave to Pharaoh and how the famine was so severe that they had to sell themselves to get food. So that turned around in 430 years, but for 430 years they were enslaved in Egypt. So that wasn't very fun. And we'll read more about that later on, but for now, let's read about how Israel or Jacob speaks with his son Joseph near the end of his life. Israel and his descendants settled in Egypt in the land of Goshen. They had many children and multiplied, and they acquired property. Jacob lived in Egypt for 17 years. So he lived in the end of his life. He made that journey and honored God and believed God and went there and lived for 17 years. He lived to be a total of 147 years old. When the time of Israel's death was near, he summoned his beloved son Joseph and said to him, "Son, do me this favor before I die. Place your hand under my thigh as a pledge that you will show me kindness and loyal love. In biblical times such as these, people put their hand on the thigh of the person that they were making an oath with. So he's making an oath to his father. Do not bury me in Egypt. And when I go to rest with my fathers, when I die, he's saying, I want you to carry me out of Egypt and bury me where they are buried. Swear that you will do this. So Joseph took the oath and said, I will do as you say. So he took the oath, he put his hand on his thigh and said, I will do as you say, and I will carry you out of Egypt and carry you back to the land where my fathers are buried. And Israel worshipped on and leaned on the top of his staff. That's the last verse of 47. So let's read the notes here, and then I also want to take you to a couple of other places in the scripture that talk about this. In verse 30, when he says, but when I go to rest with my fathers, I want you to carry me out of Egypt and bury me where they are buried. Yes, this is Wednesday, Gail. Hello. This refers to the cave of Machpelah, purchased by Abraham from the Hittites in chapter 23. Why did his burial place matter so much to Jacob? He was looking forward to the time of resurrection. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob were all buried near the ancient site in Jerusalem. Remember this? Where many centuries later Jesus would be crucified. We read about this before. It's so beautiful. He would be buried and raised from the dead near all these patriarchs. On the day Jesus was nailed to the cross, we are told that tombs nearby opened and many holy people arose in resurrection life and were seen walking about the city. And we read this before. I want to read it to you again. Matthew 27 cites this, verses 50 through 54. And this is the Passion Translation. It says, Jesus passionately cried out. He took his last breath and gave up his spirit. At that moment the veil in the Holy of Holies was torn in two from the top to the bottom, and the earth shook violently and rocks were split apart. Graves were opened, and then many of the holy ones who had died were brought back to life and came out of the graves. And after Jesus' resurrection they were plainly seen by many people walking in Jerusalem. Can you believe this? This is amazing to me. So when Jesus took his last breath, he gave up his spirit. The veil was torn in two from top to bottom. There was a great earthquake. The earth shook violently. Rocks split apart. And then it says graves were opened. And the graves that were opened were these tombs where these men, like Israel, like Jacob, who would soon be buried there in our story, lifted up, and they weren't just carried into heaven, they were put back onto the earth. This is so amazing to me. And they were walking around Jerusalem, and many people could see them plainly. I think this must have been so much of the evidence that God was um, bringing his church to the earth, and that he was wanting to manifest miracles so that the people who were actually crucifying him could see who he really is and that Jesus really was the Son of God. It says that when the Roman military officer and his soldiers witnessed what was happening and felt the powerful earthquake, they were extremely terrified. They said, there is no doubt this man was the Son of God. So it was pretty amazing for these people to experience people like Israel or Jacob coming back to life. So he's saying he wants to be buried where his ancestors are being buried. And then it says, in faith, Jacob asked to be buried near the spot where the Messiah would be crucified. God honored his faith and raised many holy people to life in order to glimpse the city they had only dreamed of. Jacob knew the fulfillment of the promise would be in Canaan, not Egypt. So that's why he asked for Joseph to carry him into Canaan, back into Canaan, to be buried and not leave him in Joseph. I mean, not leave him in Egypt. Isn't that amazing? So, also in Hebrews, I love this. Hebrews chapter 11 has so many amazing accounts of how people walked by faith. And I just want to read you this little part about where we're at in Genesis and about Israel and Joseph. It says in chapter 11 of Hebrews, again, I'm in the Passion Translation, and I'm going to start in verse 15. It says, and indeed, if they had been thinking of that country from which they went out, they would have had opportunity to return. But as it is, they desire a better country, that is a heavenly one. Therefore, God is not ashamed to be called their God, for he has prepared a city for them. And then it says in verse 17, by faith, Abraham, when he was tested, offered up Isaac. And he who had received the promises was offering up his only begotten son. It was he to whom it was said, in Isaac your descendants shall be called. He considered that God is able to raise people from the dead, from which he had also received him back as a type. And so then it says, by faith in verse 20, Isaac blessed Jacob and Esau, even regarding things to come. And then here in verse 21, by faith, Jacob, as he was dying, blessed each of the sons of Joseph and worshiped, leaning on the top of his staff. So he leaned on the top of his staff and he worshiped God. And he began in these next verses that we're going to save for tomorrow in chapter 48, he began to bless his sons. And so I'm going to just that will be all we read today, but I just want to tell you that God knows the desire of your heart, and he knows all the specifics of where you want to live, where you want to be, where you want to die, who you want to be surrounded by, how you're waiting for the fulfillment of your promise. And I love that we can lean on our staff, so to speak, and worship him and bless others as we believe him. So we believe him, we make our requests known to him, we lean on our staff, so to speak, and we worship him and we bless others. So much, so much fulfillment in our life, so much direction for us, so much of how we are to live right here. And yeah, it's just a beautiful meeting between his long lost son, Israel, and Joseph here. Right. Tomorrow we'll be talking about in verse 48 how beautiful this is, where at the end of his life, Israel will be blessing his sons. Can't wait. So that's it for today. That was short, huh? Bless your day. Bless this Wednesday for you, for Gail, and for whomever else is watching. And tomorrow we'll be on again on Thursday at 8 o'clock. All right. Take care. Bye-bye.